Hello everyone, Vescom here. So the Vive 1 year anniversary brought us a Steam VR sale. Now this video is obviously a bit late for covering the sale as a whole, but one interesting thing about the sale was the fact that there was a free weekend for raw data. So in this video I'm going to take a look at raw data and I'll give you my opinion on whether the game deserves all the praise it has gotten. So what is raw data? It is a wave-based shooter that takes inspiration from tower defense games by letting you build turrets that help you clear the waves. The enemies are robots and there are a few different kinds of them. Some have guns, some explode, some charge at you, some use predator-style cloaking, etc. The game has 3 different classes or characters that you can play. There is Bishop, who uses pistols, Boss, who uses a shotgun with a grenade launcher, and Saija, who is kind of a cyber ninja with a sword. By completing the levels, you unlock different abilities for the character you played. As you go through the levels, you also unlock new turrets that you can build, as you might expect. The game can be played as a single player game, but it also has a co-op mode. I concentrated mainly on the single player experience, but the one multiplayer mission I tried was a horrible experience. For some reason my ping was around 300, which is ridiculously high considering how good my connection actually is. I guess the game must have been hosted by someone who either had a really bad connection or who lived really far away from me. The other guy didn't say anything and his name didn't point into any particular region either, so I can't even guess where he might have been from. I suppose it could have been the ping or maybe something else, but for some reason the multiplayer was horribly glitchy. Now the rubber banding I can understand with ping like that. The ping also explains why I was having trouble hitting the enemies every now and then, assuming the hit detection happens purely on the host side. In a co-op game like this, I still think it would be better to just have the client side handle the hit detection, since that would make the shooting experience a lot better and it wouldn't really affect the balance. No matter, those 2 issues I can understand. The other glitches I experienced are where things get interesting. First, my pistols got stuck in the bullet storm mode, which essentially turns the pistols into full auto weapons that don't consume ammo. Normally that only lasts for a few seconds and then you have to wait for the ability to cool down, but for me it lasted a few minutes and it probably would have lasted the whole level if I didn't experiment on figuring out if it would be possible to get the guns back to normal. Turns out the fix for that glitch was simply to activate the ability again. Alright, that doesn't seem too bad, it was a beneficial glitch after all. Well, the other glitch, however, was the exact opposite. For some reason one of my pistols stopped reloading. I tried bringing it close to both holsters, dropping it, switching the hand it's equipped in, nothing worked, it just wouldn't reload. When I used the bullet storm ability I could still fire the gun, since during that ability the gun doesn't consume any ammo, but outside of that the gun was useless. I suppose I should have just died at that point to see if that would have fixed it, but I just didn't see a good opportunity for that since we were getting swarmed and the thing we were protecting had already taken quite a lot of damage. I guess the ping was probably a major reason as to why these glitches happened, but even then they show that there are some major issues in how the multiplayer works. Outside of the glitches in multiplayer, I didn't experience a huge number of glitches or technical issues. In one single player mission my pistol stopped hitting things and that got fixed when I died. The game also crashed once just before a mission was about to end, which of course is always annoying. Moving on to graphics, the game has often been called one of the best looking VR games out there. but especially some of the animations show that it isn't anywhere near a AAA title. All in all, I'd say that I like the look of the environments, but the enemy animations constantly remind me that it is still just an indie game. One thing I have to mention though is that I absolutely love the view out the window of the main lobby area. If only it was possible to go out and explore that city. Someone please make an open world VR game with a city like that. Anyway, after playing a lot of Robo Recall, Dead and Buried and even Space Pirate Trainer, the gunplay in raw data just doesn't feel very good. Some of the enemies are also a bit bullet spongy, which makes matters even worse. At the start of the game, the guns need to be manually reloaded, which is a mechanic that some people probably love, but to me it feels out of place in a fast-paced, fairly arcade sci-fi shooter like this. The more simple reload system simply makes a lot of sense in this kind of setting. The skills that improve the reloading do help with this though. Also, the sword doesn't really feel that great to use, except for throwing the sword, which is okay at times, at least when it goes in the direction I'm trying to throw it. Now, in principle, I like the idea of having combat skills that you can activate, but in reality I found them a bit awkward to use in the middle of hectic combat with lots of enemies. Building the turrets is a mechanic that also felt a bit out of place. The turrets just don't feel very impactful. I'd much rather have a more powerful character with weapons that deal more damage than deal with the boring turrets. The game has leaderboards, which might be attractive to some high score hunters. However, personally, I didn't find the gameplay interesting enough to get me interested in replaying the levels over and over. Also, the difference between the score from my initial run on some levels and the top score on the leaderboards seemed really small. Something like 25% increase in score would have taken me to the top spot after my first run on those levels. That makes it seem like the last bit of score is all about some minor adjustments to my playstyle, rather than learning anything interesting. Something worth mentioning is also the fact that raw data has multiple difficulty levels and it is quite easy to die even on normal difficulty. Some missions also aren't as easy to complete as you might expect, and you may end up needing to play through them multiple times in order to progress. Having multiple difficulty levels and not making the game too easy are things that I can certainly appreciate. Another, more personal preference type of complaint I have is that Bishop's pistols should really have laser sights. According to the early access description, laser sights are planned as a boost item, whatever that means, but to be totally honest, I feel like it should just be a baseline option for the guns, considering the setting of the game. In general, the low resolution of HMDs and the screen door effect make iron sights somewhat awkward to use for accurate aiming, so I think that laser sights would be a good addition to any shooting game where they fit the theme. Of course, the game is still in early access and it is getting patched frequently, so anything can happen, I guess. All in all, I love the fact that the developers let people try the full game with free weekends like this. It shows that they are proud of what they have created and that they are confident in their product. Based on what I've been reading, Raw Data was among the most polished VR titles when it was released on early access. However, since then a lot of new VR shooters have come out and Raw Data has a lot more competition, and in my opinion, Raw Data has not been able to keep up with the advancements of the competition. Games like Robo Recall, Arizona Sunshine, Superhot, and Dead and Buried have raised the bar a lot higher than it was before. Hopefully Survivors will keep improving the game enough for it to rise to the same level as its competition. But right now, I'd only recommend raw data to those who have gotten bored with all the other games, but still crave for more VR shooters. For everyone else, I'd recommend waiting to see how the game improves through the early access. And even though I've been quite critical towards raw data in what I've said, that doesn't mean that the game is completely awful or that it has no potential. Right now, it just feels like a mediocre, unfinished game that has to compete against incredibly good and polished titles. So, that was what I have to say about raw data at this point, and I'll see you in the next one.